Now to the crisis in the Red Sea between the Middle East and Africa, where cargo ships essential to world trade are being attacked by Houthi rebels who are firing missiles and flying attack drones from war-torn Yemen. The Houthis, who are backed by Iran, say they are only going after ships linked to Israel, but they've caused a major disruption to the global supply chain. The U.S. military, in the meantime, so far has been hesitant to take out the Houthis. We're joined now by Behnam Taleblu, a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Behnam, thanks for joining us here on CenterPoint.
Pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Behnam, it would seem like the obvious solution for the U.S. to bomb and take out the Houthi positions. How come we haven't done that yet?
It's a great question. So far, the U.S. seems to be investing in deterrence by denial rather than deterrence by punishment. What that really means is it's reinforcing an architecture through ships, more service persons, recently creating another international maritime coalition in the Red Sea to track and intercept, really create a defense zone, if you will, for this commercial traffic to continue to go through the Red Sea. This is likely due to America's fears of a potential widening war because the Houthis started firing after the October 7 terrorist attack and Israel's military response. And of course, this administration has more broadly pulled its punches against the patron of the Houthis, which is the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Well, we know Iran arms and funds the Houthis. The U.S. being hesitant to bomb the Houthi positions, is that just another example of President Biden and his administration's weakness regarding Iran?
Most indeed it is, and you could say this entire thing was brought to you by a major political own goal. About a month into the Biden administration's time in office, in February 2021, if I'm not mistaken, the Biden administration removed the Houthis from the list of foreign terrorist organizations maintained by the State Department. This is despite ample evidence that the Houthis use child soldiers, the Houthis liaise with the world's foremost state sponsor of terrorism. The Houthis liaise with at least two designated already foreign terrorist organizations. The Houthis attack journalists. The Houthis attack religious minorities. The Houthis fire rockets, missiles, and drones at civilian population centers and civilian targets. The Houthis harass maritime traffic. And of course, the Houthis chant things like death to America, death to Israel.
So not only do they hate the U.S., they hate Israel, they hate everyone. So my question is this: if the U.S. isn't bombing their positions, are there tangible moves right now that the Biden administration could take?
Let's see indeed how this maritime coalition plays out. The more interceptions, of course, the better it is. But in my view, unless you actually take out the capabilities of the Houthis, you will not only fail to impact the mind of the proxy, the Houthis, and then alter their risk-reward calculus to continue firing, but you will also send the wrong signal to the patron of the Houthis, which is, again, the Islamic Republic of Iran. So while it's good to have this architecture for defense, unless the Houthis know they risk losing something more than the missiles, more than the rockets, more than the drones that they're firing, they're going to continue firing.
Okay, do you see some sort of escalation then with the terror that this group is providing?
I think this group has both the capability and intent to continue to escalate. It's likely in the very, very, very short term going to try to suss out the resolve of this international maritime coalition. It's a shame that, of course, you don't have more regional countries joining in on this coalition. You have Bahrain, obviously, but unfortunately you don't have, for instance, Saudi Arabia or Egypt, both of which share a Red Sea coastline, both of which, again, oppose this kind of Islamic Republic-sponsored threat to international maritime shipping, and both of which probably harbor less than positive views of Hamas, which is also a proxy of the Islamic Republic.
If the Houthis take out a U.S. military site, an American dies, does that certainly escalate things? Does it get the attention of the U.S. then?
Indeed, it does. The problem, of course, is that elsewhere in the region, you've had U.S. forces come under attack almost 80 times, if not more, again, since the October 7 terrorist attack by Hamas against Israel and Israel's ensuing military response. We have only very selectively responded, fortunately, even in cases less than the loss of life. But again, the very limited pinprick responses by the U.S. in places like in Iraq and Syria have been insufficient to deter. So again, the lesson is for the Americans in the Red Sea, as well as the coalition, it would be wiser to do a much larger kind of deterrent strike.
Let me ask you this, Behnam. Could the U.S. going after the Houthis risk widening the Israel-Hamas war, not only to Yemen, but Iran and Arab countries that have been involved in Yemen's civil war?
Well, I would put the question the other way. The fact that the Houthis came online in the first place is proof of Iran's intent to try to widen the war, to scare America, and to really spook America into trying to pump the brakes on Israel's military operation. Let's not forget the timeline here. On October 16th, Iran's supreme leader, that's a title meant to be taken very literally, basically threatened that Iran's axis of resistance, that's Iran's terror and proxy network, would be coming online. A day later, October 17th, strikes on U.S. positions began in Iraq and Syria. We mentioned there have been almost 80 of those so far. And then 2 days later, on October 19th, the Houthis started firing at Israel. And then a few weeks after that, they started firing on international maritime traffic. So if there is any actor responsible for a widening war here, it is the Islamic Republic of Iran, and it is already widening that war with the political intent of putting more constraint on America, to transfer that constraint onto Israel, and again, to save Iran's proxy in Gaza, which is Hamas.
All right, we appreciate the information. Behnam Taleblu, we appreciate you joining us here on CenterPoint.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.